So, I'm beginning to, well, not beginning to, this is just the first time that I'm recording it. The more observant, and consequently, the more analytical I am of myself and my surroundings, and really trying to understand my environment, and not necessarily my place, but my role, like what I'm actually designed to do in this ecosystem, the less that I have to say on a general basis. Like there's so much, and there's so much room for contradiction because you can't really, I guess if you're looking at a big picture, all of the evil, quote unquote, or what we characterize as evil, the negative is required for the positive. Like it's all cyclical, it's all necessary, which is a difficult thing for idealists on either side to actually acknowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't call something what it is, but attempting to obliterate it is impossible. Well, it's not, the attempt is not impossible, but it is counterproductive in the divine design of it all. And there's so many places that this touches, which again is why, for me, it's difficult to actually have a microcosmic conversation about certain things, just because I understand why things exist the way they do. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it. Understanding its purpose. Unfortunately, we are a species that does not we do not thrive off of our humanity. We thrive off of survival. And that survival instinct doesn't necessarily promote, or is not necessarily supported by, humane thoughts and actions. There's brutality. There is a level of ruthlessness, selfishness, for the sake of being selfish, that is incorporated into that survival instinct. And oh man, this is a difficult it's a difficult space to be in and to even have a conversation about, because it's again, I believe like on a macro level, the horrors that we've experienced and witnessed are necessary to inspire the heroism and the miracles that we witness. Like, when everything is hunky-dory, who's striving to be better? When everything's good, who's striving to be better? Who's striving to, you know what I'm saying? And as humans, that's not, you know, it's not normal for the person who has it all to do something generous and heroic without there being a level of without there being some type of self-satisfaction or some reward that a person is receiving, or acknowledgement for the ego, right? Even in these posts and these podcasts or these conversations that I have with myself and share with you all, a small part of my ego is served, you know, even though I'm trying to exist without it and see if it's actually possible to just be a good person because it's right to be a good person. The fact that I want to share it, a small part of it soothes me and my desire to be a person that contributes to the positive part of society. Maybe not necessarily to be recognized, but I'm also not putting this out anonymously. And even though I can say, as far as marketing and advertising, that it's important for there to be some type of identity attached to what it is that I'm doing, like I said, it still serves the ego just a little bit. And I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things that in the grand scheme of things, the way that society and the human race is designed, these things are required for the quote-unquote earth to go around. I was talking to a friend, and we're talking about some of the things that are happening in California, and I did a little quick Google search, and not necessarily investigating the specifics of what's happening in California, but just in general. I looked up the definition of colonialism or colonizing and gentrification, and just because they seemed pretty similar, and Google AI said that gentrification is the modern day colonialism within the country. It's kind of the premise that I was thinking of when I did that search. So it felt good that I wasn't far off. And if people are wondering what's happening in this country, it's California is a thing because it's big enough to be its own country anyway. But That is what's happening. The recolonization of the United States via the United States. I don't even want to say it's the Trump administration. Like, I think it's that's the face of it right now. But basically, that's what's happening within, these areas where initially it was gentrification, where those of the indigent and lower income. It's basically the removal of the poverty class, or actually the destruction of the middle class, and the creation of the dichotomy: either you're rich or you're broke. And if you're rich, you can do anything, and if you're broke, there's a place for you, and it's under the thumb and the foot of the rich. And if you're a criminal element and can't be trusted to be the help of the rich, then you're going to be removed. Quite ironic. It's not even ironic. Like, it's almost like prophetic. Like, we celebrate being a country that originated from 13 colonies. We celebrate that as a nation. That our people came and established colonization in a landmass that did not belong to us, escaping persecution. But it was royalty, rich people who were in a position, whether it was from eminent domain and sovereignty, they were labeled to be appointed by God to be the rulers of a land. And there were people who had acquired what they felt like was equivalent wealth, but did not have the status to challenge a king or any type of sovereign power. And they decided to come and create their own society where all that mattered was how much money you had. And if you fit the design type of what they felt was privilege. It's crazy. I don't even, like, it's not even frustrating. It's more like people are not dumb. Everyone sees what's going on. So when there's a person who's arguing for what's happening, they're not ignorant. They're just choosing. So you can't really argue with someone who's choosing to be in a space because they understand what that stance means. And the things that stance means and stands for are against the morals, guidelines, and values of you who's arguing against. So you're never going to convince somebody to be more humane. Like, they've made their decision. Hopefully, they see what's going on just like you see what's going on. They just don't feel like they need to subscribe to the side that says everyone is deserving of. It's not even everyone deserves that. No one is perfect. And there's no level of negativity that's more or less worthy of fair and equitable treatment. Now, I don't know if that would draw ire from some, but it is a very slippery slope to mix emotion with legality and law. And I think that's the basis of the separation between church and state, because we don't want feelings to have a place and be interpreted and incorporated into a legal system. Because perspective inherently incorporates emotion and creates a landscape that may not be fair and equitable. And now you're talking about perspective when you're determining who's deserving of what type of treatment. And then there's so many things that go into your perspective. It's not necessarily always based off of the current events. Sometimes it's based off of your experience with someone or something that's similar to the situation that's at hand. And it's not the same. But we live off our experiences, and it may cause you to have feelings about something that may cause you to act unfairly and unjustly according to the letter of the law. You know, and I know this sounds like I'm going all over the place. I just think that at the end of the day, people make choices, and we have to do a better job of recognizing and respecting the choice and acting accordingly and being comfortable with it. And it doesn't have to be emotional. They made a choice. And now you have a choice to make on how you deal with the choice that they made. And that's just how life goes. And that choice only has to make sense to you. It's a personal decision. Just like their choice only has to make sense to them. Doesn't mean that the consequences and the repercussions are not going to far outreach you and that person, but they know that, and they have to be comfortable with that move, just like you have to be comfortable with your move. I think I said this in another podcast. Adults created a gray area so they would have an easier time dealing or not dealing with the consequences of their actions. Because if you can justify it and bend the rules and say, I know this is wrong, but I did it because of this, i.e. gray area, maybe you'll get sympathy. Maybe they won't be so harsh. But if it's not, there's a reason why those actions are not supported by the law. That it's not okay to do those things. And when you undermine that, you can't undermine it this way and feel like it's justified. And then when somebody else undermines it and cheats for their reasoning and they say that it's justified, and you're trying to say, no, it's not okay for you to have a reason to bend the law and create a gray area, but it's okay for me in this situation. You know, if you decide to take the law into your own hands and break it, doing and finding justice on your own terms, you should do that and not look for the sympathy of the court. But you should do that knowing, I'm breaking the law. If I get caught, then this is the shit that I got to deal with, and that's it, period, point blank. But most people don't have that in them to do that. They're looking for sympathy. They want their cake and eat it too. And I'm just saying that no matter why you have that mentality, it's all corrosive to whatever utopia it is that we think can exist amongst humans. Whatever fair and equitable treatment you think can exist. I don't even know if I'm going to post this. It's so much. It's a whole lot easier having an actual specific conversation about something a subject that's happening to apply this thought process to. It's such an abstract train of thought when there's nothing to apply it to. But it's very direct and it's very simple and clear cut. Shit really is what it is, even if you're trying to make it what it ain't. And I guess, I'm attempting to stand on that personally, with no expectation of any other humans actually subscribing to what I'm saying. And it's okay. But it does cause me to not have anything to say, but not knowing what to speak on, because the contradictory behavior, I don't even know if it's called irony, if it's self-inflicted or self-induced, if it's created to pacify or to create sympathy for those who desire it. It's weird. Let's just say that it's not weird. It's how society is driven up until this point. But a person who tries to operate off of logic from an everyday sense, not anything extreme, just regular day-to-day thoughts. It's weird out here in these streets, seriously. And there's going to be a crescendo. There's going to be a peak. And then everybody will see. And then a choice will have to be made, and it'll be too late for there not to be one. And then it'll be whatever side you're on. But we're headed that way. Thanks for listening. The Truth Lies Here.